Welcome to Podula Rasa. I'm David Blank.
And I'm Jimesh.
This is a podcast about finding something in nothing.
Show 12, The World is Not the World, the Thom Williams Experience, Fragment 5. Hi, this is Jim. In Show 12, we continue our exploration of the life and legacy of Thom Williams. We thank all of you who have come forward to share your memories and stories with us. One thing we've noticed going down this path from past to present, weaving and turning and twisting along the trail, is just how brightly lit the path is. It seems impossible to get lost. There are so many guides along the way. When Thom Williams came into contact with you, sparks were generated, and that light shines on in all of you who knew him. Today, we chat with Dr. Maury Joseph, a graduate of Marple Newtown High School class of 2005 and a student of Thom Williams. Maury has some great stories to share, not just about T. Will in the old days, but how those experiences inform his current practice as a therapist. I asked Maury to tell us a little bit about himself.
Well, I grew up in Broomall. Now I live in Rockville, Maryland, and I work in Washington, D.C., and I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a therapist. Historically, I teach graduate students about how to do therapy, and teach in another psychotherapy training program.
Where do you teach?
I teach at one place called the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Uh-huh. At their DC campus, and then I have taught at the Washington School of Psychiatry.
What was your experience with Thom Williams? Like, when did you first meet him? Did you have him for a teacher? And how did you get to know him?
Well, it started with Laurie Friedman, actually. She sort of identified me as somebody who, I think she said to my mom at like a parent-teacher conference, we have to get Maury in a class with Thom Williams. I think she introduced us at some point. I signed up for his creative writing class, I think it was. And we just kind of hit it off. I think even at one point he and I created an independent study for me, which basically meant that I got to sit in his office and play guitar and write songs. And read poetry, which that was good for me.
I bet.
Probably everybody had a unique experience, but I think mine was because I was writing songs and he thought they were kind of cool, and it sort of developed into co-writing. Like I would have something, and then he would have something, and then simple chord progressions, Steely Dan, jazzy type voicing or something. It was just super cool. It was super cool to just have that sort of little something from him, little something from me, back and forth. And his creativity and fun and sharing. It's just unusual when you're 18 years old with, your high school teacher who's, it was just a super special, surreal. You just don't get that much stuff like that in life, I don't think.
Did you stay in touch with Thom after you graduated from Marple?
Yeah, after graduation, I came back and saw him, and we'd sit down and record something, either something he'd been working on, or we would write a little something together. That was an extremely productive time in my life.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that Thom Williams had a knack for supporting kids' talents and really lifting them up somehow. How would you put it?
Getting behind people, putting wind in their sails, as opposed to sort of shaming them as a person. You really have a nice impact on people's lives that way.
So what was your path going through college? What were you interested in, and did you shift gears at any point?
My aspiration was to be a creative writing teacher. I wanted to teach high school classes in college. Really only took about one class before I was like, you know what, I don't think this is for me. I found myself, I remember I was in a workshop with all these people who were like, seniors. They were like, knew how to just like tear work apart. It was a very different, it was more sort of academic, picking things apart.
Yeah, that kind of behavior can be a total buzzkill to creativity. So how did you make the switch into psychology?
Um, it's in some ways it was like a family profession. I just always thought that that sounded interesting, and so I stuck with it. That's the short version of the story.
Sure. Wanted to ask you if you've seen any big changes since the COVID-19 pandemic hit in your own practice with the patients that you're seeing, or are they reporting different kinds of symptoms? Like, how bad is it out there?
Oh God, that's
You can take the next 20 minutes.
yeah. Look, yeah. I mean, I would say more busy than it's ever been. Up to the pandemic, everybody's symptoms went up, everybody's stress went up, and everybody's sort of general. To me, that's just an unmistakable pattern. And people tend to look to therapists, but there's certain things going on right now that there's no way to make feel better. People come to me looking for help, looking for answers, but I think it is interesting how it has become a place where I can be creative. At least the way I go about practicing and the way I think about the work.
How does that work? I was going to ask you if there's anything that Thom did or shared with you that rubbed off in this very different field of psychology, which maybe isn't so different. But like, what do you do? You mentioned that you're kind of creative in your practice. How does that work?
Well, I think there's definitely something to be said about the being encouraging and non-shaming, and really meeting people where they are. I think I don't know if Thom was the only person in my life to ever show me that, but I mean, he certainly wasn't. But he stands out as a remarkable. He had a remarkable ability to I don't know, just be cool with people as they were, and I feel like the majority of what brings people to a therapist's office is their difficulty with being cool with themselves as they are. And so a big part of my job is trying to accept people as they are, even while they're really having a hard time accepting themselves as they are, to find things about them that are likable and attractive even when they can't see that. And I think there's no question Thom was a model of that. I think one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately was, and I Googled this, but because I knew we were going to talk, so I was like trying to prep myself psychologically. I was trying to remember stories and remember things, and so he said this thing to me one time. He said, and he said it more than once. He said, "The world is not the world." I don't know if anyone else ever heard him say that. He would look at me as in this kind of, I don't know, forlorn, woe-begotten, throwing up his hands kind of way. The world is not the world. And
what did he mean by that, do you think?
I don't know if I'll ever know, but I think that only in the past year, and this is 15 years later or something, I think only in the past year am I beginning to understand something like that, in the sense that, and so I Googled it to see if he was quoting somebody. Was he quoting Buddha? Is he quoting Jesus? Which he could do. He totally could do. But I can't find that quotation anywhere. So I can only assume then that it's original Thom Williams. And I think it's something about how our concept of the world is not the world. The world as we envision it, the world as we preconceive it, is not equivalent to what the world actually is. My fantasies of life is not what life is.
Right.
The world is not the world. It's like you think it's the world, but it's an image of the world that exists only in your mind. So, and I think that's a lot of my work too as a therapist is helping that come home to certain people. It's like, boy, yeah, we fall in love with our images of the world. We fall in love with the images of the world that we have in our mind, and we want that. We want it real, and we try to make it real. We try to force it to be real, but like something crazy would happen. You'd be like, the world is not the world. And the other thing that really comes back to me all the time, and that I have said it to patients, and I'll even say, I had this inspiring teacher, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the things that I went looking for after I listened to your podcast was the Modern Poets I Ching.
Yeah.
That webpage. And the first poem on it is, he gave me an emergency telephone number to call. It was my own. And how much of my job is trying to help people become their own emergency service. To help them with the dependency they've built on other people coming to relieve their emergencies. So that poem has always stuck with me. The world is not the world. He gave me an emergency number to call. It was my own. And then haiku. Another thing was while I was working with Thom, I published a haiku. And I had never explored haiku before meeting Thom, but he taught me haiku. He gave me books to read. We workshop poems together, and finally I started submitting them to journals, and I managed to get one published.
Do you remember the haiku? Can you recite it?
I think I do. I think it's something. Sleeping alone, I begin to learn the cricket's song.
I like it.
Yeah, the cricket was like an image from one of my songs that Thom really liked, and it was an image. It's a good haiku image, I think, a cricket.
Yeah, for sure.
So another thing I uncovered in sort of prepping my mind for speaking with you was I played a song at Thom's funeral. I had written this song after I learned he died.
Right.
The last line of that song is, I remember the last thing he said to me was that the ice cream still tastes sweet, and that's veridical. That's that song was sort of like meant to be kind of like a I never went to visit him in the hospital, but I talked to him on the phone when he was in the hospital, and that song was meant to be sort of a imagination of what it would have been like if I had gone to see him, or sort of wishing I had gone to see him, and imagining it. And on the phone, I was checking in with him. I think I was obviously worried, and he, I think sort of true to form, true to his style, his way of reassuring me, I guess, was sort of to say, the ice cream's still sweet. He didn't say exactly this, but it was like he was saying, look, even I'm in the hospital, but the ice cream's still sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's like it's a supremely I don't know, what an amazing take on the experience of being in a hospital. Ice cream is sweet, that's cool.
It's pretty profound, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's take a listen to the song. Here's Maury Joseph, You Should Not Be Here.
He's got a 3-day beard, and there's a look in his eyes like there's ghosts drawing near. There's earth from my grandfather's grave on my shoes. So what am I doing here? Another blustering late autumn day, another hospital floor, another sparkle and fade. I ain't been out to see him in over a year, and I was just a train ride away. So how did we get here? And is this really where we end? This is a hospital bed. You should not be here, my friend, and I can't believe it. Sometimes we break and we cannot mend, then it's back to the graveyard again. this song's gonna go incomplete. I've still got so much to learn. Tell me who's gonna teach. I remember the last thing he said to me. He said the ice cream still tastes sweet. So how did we get here? And is this really where we end? This is a hospital bed. You should not be here, my friend, and I can't believe it. Sometimes we break and we cannot mend. Then it's back to the graveyard again. You should not be here, my friend. You should not be here, my friend. And we should not be here, my friend.
Maury Joseph, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your memories and stories and music, and your advice as a therapist. I'm sure we can all benefit from that at this time period. As always, we encourage your feedback. You can leave a comment at pagilarasa.com or send us an email, pagilarasa@gmail.com. If you're not a subscriber to the podcast, head over to anchor.fm or your favorite podcasting app and subscribe. We'd love to have you. Until next time, be well.